On November 3, 1998, it was an ordinary afternoon in the quiet Lakewood neighborhood of Jacksonville, Florida. The streets were calm, families were returning home, and children played outside, unaware of what was about to happen. 12-year-old Maddie Clifton left the house for a short baseball game with a neighbor. She wore a sports uniform and carried the carefree smile of someone still far from understanding the world's brutality. But when she didn't return home at dusk, something changed in the air. Her worried parents began a desperate search through alleys and yards, calling out her name loudly. But no answer came. The community quickly mobilized. Hundreds of volunteers, police officers, and even helicopters joined the search for young Maddie. Her photos were posted everywhere, and local news broadcasts reported her disappearance in every edition. Among the volunteers going door to door was Melissa Phillips, mother of 14-year-old Joshua, a boy seemingly shy and introverted, known in the neighborhood as a quiet teenager who loved video games and metal music. No one could imagine that horror was hiding just behind the walls of his room. For 6 long days, hope of finding Maddie alive slowly faded. But it was only on November 10th that the veil of illusion was torn away. While cleaning her son's room, Melissa noticed a suspicious liquid dripping from the bed frame. Moving the furniture, she found Maddie's body wrapped in sheets, hidden inside the dresser. The silence of the house was shattered by a desperate scream. She immediately called the police. Joshua was taken by the officers shortly after, with no chance to resist. During the interrogation, his voice was faint but clear. He told a version that left everyone breathless. He said he had been playing baseball with Maddie in the yard when a ball accidentally hit the girl's eye. Fearing punishment from his father, described as strict and easily irritable, Joshua, in a panic, brought Maddie inside and hid her under the bed. But when she started to complain and cry, he said he hit her several times, just trying to silence her. Investigators analyzed his story clinically. Despite the apparent innocence of the explanation, the wounds on the girl's body told a tale of escalation poorly fitting an accident. The trial, followed by millions of viewers, focused on the dark reality behind the image of a model teenager. On March 16, 1999, Joshua Phillips was sentenced to life imprisonment without parole. In the following years, the case raised deep questions about how minors are treated in the U.S. justice system. Phillips, having grown up behind bars, has expressed remorse and asked for clemency multiple times. In 2017, a new hearing reopened the debate, but the sentence remained unchanged. It was October 21, 2009, when Elizabeth Olton, a girl of just 9 years, left home in the small town of St. Martins, Missouri, to visit a friend who lived a few meters away. She had her cell phone with her and promised her mother she would return before dark. But as the sun began to set behind the trees and Elizabeth hadn't come back, a feeling that something was wrong began to take hold. At 6:15 p.m., her mother tried to call her, but the phone rang unanswered. After a few minutes of growing anxiety, the family contacted authorities. The disappearance was immediately taken seriously. Police officers, search dogs, volunteers, the whole community mobilized, but hours passed with no trace of the girl. The mystery deepened, while anxiety spread like a cold fog through the streets of that seemingly peaceful residential neighborhood. In the following days, while the search continued, investigators began questioning local residents. Among them was a 16-year-old with dark hair and a distant gaze, Alyssa Bustamante. She attended high school, lived with her grandparents and younger siblings. Known by classmates for strange behaviors, she was a quiet girl who wrote dark poetry and posted disturbing thoughts online. But no one, at least on the surface, ever thought she could be dangerous. When asked if she had seen Elizabeth that day, Alyssa remained calm, but a few inconsistencies in her accounts and a certain tension in her eyes triggered suspicion. On October 23rd, 2 days after the disappearance, the psychological pressure during interrogation became unbearable. Alyssa broke down. She told officers she had lured Elizabeth into the woods behind her house and pointed out the exact spot. When investigators dug into the damp soil, they found the girl's body. The details revealed in the confession left everyone breathless. Alyssa had prepared everything well in advance. She had dug a hole days before, waiting for the perfect victim. During the interrogation, she admitted she wanted to know what it felt like to take someone's life. There was no motive, no argument, no sudden impulse, just a cold and planned decision. When the girl's personal diary was seized, investigators found a page written immediately after the act. The handwriting was neat, the words clear. "I just killed someone. I strangled her, hit her, and slit her throat. It's incredible. I still can't believe it. I'm fine. A wonderful feeling." The coldness of those sentences shocked parents, judges, lawyers, and everyone involved in the case. During the trial, the public watched in stunned silence as the story unfolded. An ordinary-looking girl with a troubled past marked by self-harm and depression had become responsible for one of the most disturbing cases ever in that community. In January 2012, Alyssa Bustamante was sentenced to life imprisonment with the possibility of parole. She was only 18 years old. Today, her face is still visible in hundreds of articles and videos online, where the contrast between her youth and the brutality of the act continues to leave a profound sense of shock. And in a quiet corner of Missouri, a family still mourns little Elizabeth, who left home innocently and never returned. It was a quiet night in Alba, a small town in East Texas, on March 1, 2008. The Caffy family home was engulfed in darkness, surrounded by trees and open fields. Inside, Terry and Penny Caffy slept unaware, together with their 3 children. Family serenity seemed intact, but just meters from their door, a silent plan was about to be executed. At 3:00 a.m., 2 armed figures approached the house, guided not by a sudden impulse, but by weeks of planning. What happened in the following hours would forever shatter the image of an apparently perfect American family, leaving behind only ashes and pain. The first gunshots exploded in the silence, breaking the calm of the night. Terry, the father, was awakened by a deafening noise and was hit multiple times in moments, but miraculously managed to flee the burning house and crawl over 300 meters through the woods to find help. Seriously injured, he told authorities what he remembered: the fire, the gunfire, the chaos. When rescuers arrived, they found the house engulfed in flames. Inside, among the charred rubble, were the bodies of Penny and the 2 younger children, 8-year-old Tyler and 13-year-old Matthew. The scene was devastating, but what shocked officers even more was an unexpected discovery. The family's 16-year-old daughter, Erin Caffy, was not among the victims. The investigation took a swift turn. Erin was found hours later with her 19-year-old boyfriend, Charlie Wilkinson, and his friend Charles Wade. What emerged during interrogations shook even the most experienced investigators. It was Charlie who confessed. He said they had killed Erin's parents and siblings because the family opposed their relationship. And it was Erin, according to testimony, who convinced them. She had devised the plan, even indicating where the bedrooms were and how to act quickly, all to be able to live freely with Charlie, away from her family's no's and rules. Erin was arrested along with the other 2 boys and a 4th person, Bobby Johnson, Charles Wade's girlfriend, who helped them escape. In the following months, details of the case filled the news. Images of Erin smiling in selfies before the arrest contrasted chillingly with the horror of that night. During the trial, the defense tried to describe her as a manipulated girl, overwhelmed by a toxic relationship. But the evidence left little room for doubt. Prosecutors showed messages, testimonies, and confessions that outlined a direct, cold, and calculated involvement. In the end, to avoid the death penalty, Erin pleaded guilty and was sentenced to life imprisonment with the possibility of parole after 40 years. Today, she is held in a Texas prison, while her father, the only survivor, chose forgiveness, sharing his story in schools and churches, turning pain into a warning. Erin Caffy's story remains one of the most shocking in American crime news, a blend of adolescent love, rebellion, and destruction that still leaves listeners in stunned disbelief. It was the morning of March 6, 2015, when the silence of a quiet residential area in Rock Hill, South Carolina, was broken by the growing sound of sirens. A column of smoke rose from a small house on Lesley Court, while neighbors who came to watch helplessly observed the frantic work of firefighters. Inside the house, flames had already engulfed the entire upper floor. Between the blackened walls, in a small bedroom, the lifeless body of 14-month-old Joshua Hill was found. Motionless in his crib, he had no time to react, cry, or call for help. The cause of death was soon clear: smoke inhalation. But what remained to be clarified was the origin of the fire. And there began a story that would leave the entire community in shock. Jacob Matt Morgan, the victim's older brother, was present that morning. He was 17 years old, wore thick glasses, and had a diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder. He was home with Joshua while their mother was out. When questioned, Jacob initially said he had tried to put out the fire, but the flames spread too fast. He said he had tried to help his little brother, but then ran away in panic. Investigators immediately noticed inconsistencies in his story. There were no obvious signs of attempts to extinguish the fire, nor burns or smoke injuries on his body. Strangely, the door to little Joshua's room had been locked from the outside. As hours passed, interrogations grew more intense. Jacob showed signs of confusion, nervousness, and a strange alternation between clarity and detachment. Finally, after hours of questioning, he admitted to starting the fire in the room next to his brother's. He said he had lit a lighter near a blanket to see what would happen, but he could not explain why he didn't call for help or really try to save Joshua. The revelation hit officers like a punch. It wasn't just a domestic tragedy. It was something darker, deeper. The community that knew the two brothers only as quiet kids struggled to believe what was emerging. The trial began the following year and captured the attention of local and national media. In court, Jacob often appeared confused, at times disoriented. Defense attorneys highlighted his mental fragility and young age, trying to paint him as a boy unable to fully grasp the consequences of his actions. But the prosecution insisted the fire was at least partly planned, and that Jacob had locked the door to prevent his brother's escape. In 2016, Jacob Matt Morgan was found guilty of manslaughter, arson, and criminal negligence. The sentence was severe, 15 years in prison. Today, Jacob's face is still visible in the South Carolina Department of Justice records, and his story continues to divide public opinion. Was he a misunderstood boy, or was there something inside him harboring a deeper pain? The answers remain suspended, like the ashes of that house still etched in the memory of those who saw the smoke rise that day. It was the afternoon of July 16, 2011, in Port St. Lucie, a quiet town in Florida. The sun was shining high, and for many teenagers it was just another summer Saturday. But for Tyler Hadley, a 17-year-old boy with a reserved appearance and a blank stare, that day would be different from any other. For days, Tyler had been quietly saying he would throw a party. A legendary party, he told schoolmates. When asked how, since his parents would never allow it, he replied jokingly, "They won't be a problem." No one, not even his closest friends, imagined how real and irreversible those words would become. That evening, around 8:30 p.m., dozens of teenagers began arriving at the Hadley house. The lights were on, music blasting, and there was alcohol, shouting, and laughter everywhere. The house, an orderly and quiet villa until a few hours before, turned into youthful chaos. Those who knew Tyler were surprised. He had never been the type for big parties, often seeming closed off with a permanently absent gaze. But now, he seemed relaxed. Or so it seemed. Meanwhile, two bodies lay in the master bedroom, hidden under sheets, towels, and scattered objects. They were Tyler's parents, Blake and Mary Jo Hadley. According to what would later emerge, the murder happened a few hours before the party started. Tyler had waited for his parents to fall asleep, then took a hammer from the tool room. The blows were quick and silent, unleashed in a sudden, brutal explosion of repressed tension. After arranging the bodies in the room and trying to clean up the mess as best he could, he sent the messages. "The party is on." During the night, among plastic cups and music noise, some guests noticed something was wrong. The house smelled of cleaning products. Some doors were locked. Tyler kept biting his lips, staring into space, muttering nonsense. To a friend, he whispered, "I did something terrible. I killed my parents." The boy thought it was a joke, but Tyler wasn't laughing. At 4:40 a.m., after the last guest left, police received a report. When officers arrived, they found the house in disaster. The bedroom door had been forced open. Inside, the parents' bodies were covered with blankets and hastily piled objects. Tyler was arrested on the spot. His pale, motionless face showed no signs of panic, only an impenetrable silence. The trial took place the following year. His confession was complete and detailed. In 2014, Tyler Hadley was sentenced to 2 consecutive life sentences without parole. Today, images of the house, the party, and his young, icy face still circulate online, becoming the chilling symbol of a night no one could have foreseen and no one will ever forget. It was a cold and seemingly ordinary morning in Conyers, Georgia, on January 13, 2010. The quiet of the suburbs was shattered by a frantic 911 call. Two 16-year-old twin sisters, Jasmia and Tasmia Whitehead, told operators they had just found their mother, Jarmeka Nikki Whitehead, lifeless in their home. Their tone was hysterical, voices broken by crying, and the story seemed that of two devastated daughters. When officers arrived, they found Nikki lying in the bathtub in a pool of water and blood. The marks on her body told a violent, long, desperate struggle. She had been hit multiple times, and chaotic footprints remained on the floor, traces of uncontrollable fury. Nikki Whitehead was 35. She worked as an esthetician and was trying to rebuild a difficult relationship with her daughters, who had been raised for years by their maternal great-grandmother. Only months earlier, following a court decision, the twins had returned to live with her, but living together was explosive. Arguments were daily, and school authorities had repeatedly reported domestic violence episodes. Some neighbors recalled nighttime screams, broken glass, interrupted phone calls. The mother-daughter's relationship seemed marked by resentment rooted deeper than mere teenage rebellion. During initial interrogations, the twins said they had returned from school around 4 p.m. and found the front door wide open and their mother lifeless. They said they tried to resuscitate her, then called for help. But something didn't add up. Investigators noticed fresh scratches on both girls' faces and bite marks on their hands. The girls attributed everything to a supposed school fight, but could not provide consistent details. Cell phones, movements, timelines, every element conflicted with another. The accounts were confused, fragmented, and the tears seemed timed. The breakthrough came months later, when DNA recovered from Nikki's fingernails revealed a shocking truth. It matched her own daughter's. The scratches, bruises, wounds, all pointed in one direction. The twins were arrested, and at that point, the facade crumbled. Prosecutors reconstructed a disturbing sequence. That morning, there had been no school. The girls had stayed home. The argument escalated, becoming physical. For 8 interminable minutes, fury reigned on Nikki as she desperately tried to save herself. The girls used kitchen knives and household objects. In the end, they dragged her to the bathtub, leaving her there as if water could wash away what they had just done. In 2014, after years of investigations and legal negotiations, Jasmia and Tasmia pleaded guilty to voluntary manslaughter. They were sentenced to 30 years in prison each. Today, behind the walls of 2 different penitentiary institutions, they serve their sentences. The story of the Whitehead sisters remains one of the most disturbing and inexplicable in recent American judicial chronicles. Not only for the violence, but for the total absence of warning signs that could have suggested such an outcome. 2 daughters, 1 mother, an ordinary home, and a secret no one ever wanted to discover.